pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while Councilman Sarah leads us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, grant us the wisdom to look towards the future. Provide us with the presence of mind to move past the temptations to react in the same old ways. Help us to break the mental prisons of the past so that we may truly move our community in a positive direction. Amen.
Amen. To advise that meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted as required under the Open Public Meetings Act. As we always do, our solicitor will comment on the topics that were discussed in executive session.
In executive session, Mayor and Council discussed certain matters of personnel. One matter is a contract for Police Chief Bennett. Additional information will be made available in regard to that matter this evening when Council considers a motion in regard to that contract. Council also discussed a contract for City Manager Ed Stinson. Additional information will be made available this evening when Council considers Resolution 2016-66. Contract matters were discussed. A proposed contract for shared services with the Atlantic County Utility Authority was discussed. That contract relates to trash pickup. Additional information will be made available in regard to that matter this evening as Council considers a resolution to enter into such shared service agreement. Further contract matters, one dealing with ice cream vending on the beach. Additional information will be made available in regard to that matter this evening in the manager's report. The manager also reported that Joyce Media has been hired to deal with website issues for the municipality. That is a contract in the amount of $5,000. A personnel matter relating to the police department was discussed. Former Class 2 Officer Alex Corcoran has been hired as a full-time police officer. Litigation matters, the manager advised that former Fire Captain Bordenaro has filed a administrative complaint with PERC. Additional information will be made available as that matter proceeds. That's it, sir.
Okay, so we will have two additions to our agenda. One will be the trash contract with the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, and the other will be proposed contract for Police Chief Jim Bennett. Okay. At this time, we need the approval of payroll, requisition list, and operating expenses. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, concerns, discussion? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
McClegg?
Yes.
Withers?
Yes.
Lutry?
Abstain on 674, yes to the balance.
Sierra?
Yes.
Simpson?
Abstain on 586, K 1649, 637, K 1649, yes to everything else.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, I'm going to deviate from the published agenda for just a moment. We actually have a proclamation. For the second year in a row, we've had Brigantine residents recognized as top 40 under 40. And we had actually 3 this year from Brigantine. Paul and Kira Amalfitano. They are not able to join us this evening, but wanted to read their proclamation into the record. Whereas Kira and Paul Amalfitano are being acknowledged for the annual Greater Atlantic City JC's Top 40 Under 40 Award. The Top 40 Under 40 Award was created with the mission of recognizing the spirit of volunteerism, entrepreneurship, and hard work embodied by outstanding young community leaders in our area. And whereas Paul is a physical therapist, actually right here in Brigantine, and Kira is a speech pathologist. They were married 13 years ago, and since the couple has led a busy life with both of them working and raising 3 children. whereas with busy schedules, Kira and Paul somehow find time to give back to their community. They volunteer for countless hours in a variety of philanthropic pursuits, which include church groups and community organizations. And whereas the most notable volunteer work they have done involves the renovating of Shark Park, Brigantine Shark Park. Together they have helped raise the funds for restoring this playground and making it as safe and enjoyable for our children. And whereas it is important for us to recognize our responsibilities and to follow the example of these volunteers by giving of themselves for the betterment of all. Now therefore I, on behalf of the Brigantine City Council, do hereby commend and recognize Kira and Paul Amalfitano and extend our very best wishes for their continued success in life's pursuits. So we will get this over to Paul and Kira. We also have the honor this time to bestow a proclamation on one of our members. So I'd like to ask Vince if he would please join me over here. Because Vince was recognized for the top 40 under 40. He just made it.
Right under the wire.
But this proclamation reads, whereas Vince Serra is being acknowledged for the annual Greater Atlantic City JC's Top 40 Under 40 Award. Top 40 Under 40 Award was created with the mission of recognizing the spirit of volunteerism, entrepreneurship, and hard work embodied by our outstanding young community leaders in our area. And whereas Vince is an educator at Oakcrest High School, where he teaches United States history and AP government, Vince and his wife Jennifer have two beautiful daughters, Brielle and Riley, who are here this evening to witness their dad get the award. And whereas with his busy schedule, Vince somehow finds the time to give back to his community. 2014, he was elected to the Brigantine City Council, where he serves on many committees. He also volunteers countless hours representing the Brigantine City Beach Patrol and the Brigantine Rowing Club. And whereas he was instrumental in renovating Brigantine Shark Park, where he showed his leadership skills in becoming a liaison between the volunteer committee members in the city, and whereas it is important for all us to recognize our responsibilities and follow the example of these volunteers by giving of themselves for the betterment of all. Now therefore I, on behalf of the City Council, do recognize and commend Councilman Vince Serra, and I urge all of our residents to recognize the valuable work done by volunteers. Congratulations, Vince. Great job.
You gonna say something?
I don't know, don't need to tell me what.
Well, your kids are here, I can't do that.
First of all, probably the most important thing is I don't think I'd be able to do any of the things that I do without the support of my wife and my family. And it really means a lot that they're here for me today. And I think one of the driving factors in everything I try to do for our community is my children. Brigantine is an outstanding community. I literally am the person I am today because of all the caring people who are here, because of the education I received at Brigantine North School, because all of the people and adults who took time in my life who invested in me. And obviously a big influence was the chief of the Beach Patrol. You know, Joe Gunther was a huge influence in my life. Like, I spent a lot of time where I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. And he really gave me a lot of direction, taught me the importance of discipline. And it really led to me to being here and being successful with my family. So I thank everyone in our community, and I thank all of our members of council and everyone here today for recognizing me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And we are truly a better community having Vince and Jennifer and the family here in Brigantine, and Paul and Kira Amalfitano as well. We have some great young families who have made Brigantine their home, and they're very active in our community, and we're very happy they're here. So thank you for everyone who was involved in this program, because I think it does a great service to recognize young leaders. The next item would be anyone who would like to comment on anything that's on the agenda. So I'll open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. And Brielle, were you volunteering?
If you give her the mic, she'll talk.
Yeah, just like a father.
Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. commenting on two resolutions, 71 and 66. 71 first, the award of engineering infrastructure assessment. Question, what's included in the assessment other than the rates? So when you come to that, please answer that question. Number 2 is Resolution 66, and this concerns the employment agreement. Excuse me. The Faulkner Act controls the term of office, the qualifications, duties, and powers of a city manager. This resolution authorizes an employment agreement for a city manager for other details of his appointment. Such an agreement, Exhibit A, is supposed to be included with this resolution. It is not included on the website, and this thus not available to the public. I do not believe that council should vote on this matter until the public knows those details of his employment, other than those stated in the Faulkner Act. The current manager has been in this position for a year without such an agreement. We should know why an agreement is necessary and what it includes. So there are the handwritten words after this resolution on the website, and then the rest of the page is blank. So there is nothing to tell the public about what is in this employment agreement. We know what the Faulkner Act says, but otherwise, and that information should be available to the public, and I don't think council should vote on it until the public knows that. So like to hear your discussion on that issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Yes, John.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Item number 6, the execution of agreement for the city manager and appointment of city engineer. Are they separate personnel, or are they in one person?
It's one person.
So it's going to continue status quo?
Yes.
Okay, not to be confused with, we have a pool of engineers for projects and whatnot.
That's correct.
That pool's going to stay in place.
That's
and
correct.
this is for status quo.
Exactly.
Okay. I support any agreement that the council so chooses to approving Mr. Stenson as our city manager and our civil engineer. I think he's the best that there's ever been for Brigantine. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Monica Malone, 329 36th Street. I'm here tonight representing the Sanderling Condominium Association and the 1012 Condominium Association. We're interested in the proposal regarding trash pickup.
Okay. Monica,
and
that's not on the agenda.
This is for agenda items.
I thought
This
you
is
just added it.
no, this is for agenda items only. No, that's for residential trash pickup. That
Okay.
contract.
So the condominium pickup service will be discussed at some other time?
At some other time, yes. Yes, it would be a separate contract for the condominium. But when we get to the second public portion, you can talk about that if you'd like, okay? Which we'll hopefully get to in a very quick manner tonight. Okay, anyone else on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our agenda at this time. First resolution is Resolution 2016-66, authorizing the execution of an agreement for city manager and appointment of municipal engineer. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I think the question that came up is the terms of this agreement. This is a four-year agreement. It provides that the city manager would have who is also the city engineer, would be appointed for a four-year term. However, the Faulkner Act conditions still control all of the parts of the city manager's contract. That is in statute, so nothing changes there. If the city manager is no longer the city manager, Mr. Stinson would then stay as the city engineer according to this agreement. So he would revert back to the position he had before, which was the full-time city engineer. It also provides for a compensation for both of those positions, and the total amount of compensation for both positions is $127,500. And with this agreement, there are automatic raises of 2% each year. Did I forget anything else, Mr. Cerny, in the?
I mean, that is the primary terms.
Okay. Any discussion by council members on the employment agreement?
Yeah, just for the record. And my comments have nothing at all to do with Ed. I made these same comments when we were talking about whether or not there should be a written contract for the last manager, Jennifer Blumenthal. With respect to our solicitor, I think our opinions may differ on this. I'm really not satisfied that council has legal authority to enter into long-term employment contracts of this type with what are statutorily to be at-will employees. But beyond that, let's assume we did have the legal authority to do that. I think as a matter of policy, it's never good policy for the 7 members sitting on council at any given time to enter into agreements that will bind future councils, which nobody sitting up here now is guaranteed that they'll still be sitting up here during the last year of the proposed contract. And my understanding of the intent of the provisions in the Faulkner Act dealing with city managers generally and engineers generally is that those appointments should be annual appointments, and always those employees should be subject to the will of council, however council may be constituted at any given point in time. If we were sitting here now talking about a 1-year contract, I have no issue with that. Multi-year contract, as a matter of policy, I've never supported it, and I can't support it.
Okay. Any other comments?
I saw this contract, went over it, discussed it in executive session. Unfortunately, the public didn't get a chance to review the contract. But there's a few things in it that I don't think are wise. I tend to agree with Councilman DeLucre on some points, even though there is a state statute in the Faulkner Act that protects the city in terms of going into this contract. The state statute supersedes this. I don't think a 4-year contract is a wise decision. I don't think it's in the best interest of the taxpayers to go into a 4-year contract. I'm more in favor or inclined to go into a 1-year contract. And the fact that there are automatic raises also raises an eyebrow, and I'm concerned of that. Ed does do a good job in both professional positions, so there's nothing against you in any way. So that's what I'm struggling with right now.
Mr. Cerny, the engineer's appointment is allowed by the Faulkner Act for the time period that is?
Well, I mean, actually, you have a provision in your municipal code for the appointment of a municipal engineer. In terms of the term, I believe in the code it looks at a 3-year contract. But you, in terms of the ability to appoint and to enter into a contract, you have adopted that by ordinance.
So is the term a problem, or is it okay, the 4-year?
To be strictly compliant with your code, you'd probably be better off on the engineering side at 3.
Okay. Mr. Stinson, is that not to negotiate here?
Council wants to consider a 3-year appointment or 5.
Okay. So we move it to 2018.
Both?
I think the whole thing runs that term, right?
I don't know if there would be anything,
Under the Faulkner Act, he's only asked for 4, and then we're going to move it down to 3.
Well, I think,
Oh, for the city manager job. You were just talking about
I was talking, I thought the question that was posed was
strictly
the
on
engineer.
the engineering part.
And the engineering part is in your code, and it's for 3 years. And if you were to make it effective tonight, you could go and not have no challenge from your own code for 36 months from tonight. Now, that comment is not directed at the manager portion. The manager portion, if you want to take it, I think there was a termination date here of December of 19.
right.
If you want to leave the manager there, but have the engineering running consistent with your ordinance, that would be 36 months from now.
Or would that back up to January 1st?
I don't see anything that would cause it to back up from to January 1st. As I understand, and I am subject to being corrected on this, there was a point in time when Ed was appointed as the city engineer under that code provision. When the 36 months ran out, there was not a reappointment, and he's been serving in a holdover position as the engineer from the expiration of the original 36 months until this point in time. Council's now taking a fresh look at this tonight, and I believe that if you were to pass this tonight, you would be dealing with a fresh 36 months starting now.
So you could go 36 months from today.
Yes.
That would affect both engineer and manager then? Or
No.
they're two
No.
separate things?
No.
Two separate.
Okay.
Leave the date you have in there, and it's 36 months from today, if it's passed.
Fred, in the interest of clarification, Section 2D, does that provide that at the termination of the agreement, if the parties haven't given notice, that it's extended for an additional year?
I'm sorry, Councilman, do that again. We're
Oh,
in section
Section
2B,
D.
Delta.
Section 2,
I think
or
D.
D?
Automatic renewal without notice.
I mean, the way that language reads, it does appear that if there is not a communication about termination, that it is extended for a year.
Yeah, it's an
I mean,
automatic
Am I reading
renewal.
that correctly?
Yeah, it looks like an automatic renewal without notice on either party.
Okay. So the date for the engineer would run from now. So I guess we need a motion to amend it?
Yeah, you could, well, yeah. Did we move this yet?
Yes.
Yes.
The resolution was moved? Okay, I was going to say, 'cause if it wasn't moved, we could just consider it at the time of the motion, but if you already have the motion before council, then there should be a motion to amend the term of the engineer portion of this to a total of 36 months commencing upon approval.
Okay.
I have one more question above and beyond that. Mrs. Phillips brought up a point, and Fred, is that a legal issue that Ann Phillips brought
I'm
up?
sorry, I can't, what are you asking, Councilman?
Ann Phillips brought
Yeah,
up a
I
point.
know Ms. Phillips raised some questions, and specifically, what are you asking me now?
I'm asking you Are there legalities here with the Faulkner Act not being posted properly?
No, I don't find it that way, and I don't find it that way because the actual text of the proposed agreement defers to the Faulkner Act. The Faulkner Act is called out by statutory section in this document. I mean, I find this document, the way it is drafted, and this is not my authorship. This is not our document. It was done by others on behalf of Mr. Stinson. We have had a review function, but on behalf of council, but this is not our document. In terms of the Faulkner Act, this strikes me as being subservient to the Faulkner Act. It specifically calls out the Faulkner Act. It specifically has the statutory sections referred to and says that the Faulkner Act controls. So at the end of the day, in terms of the city manager position that is subject to this contract, it is still within the parameters and subservient to the Faulkner Act.
Okay, no, I understand that. But I mean, as opposed to it being posted properly for the public, I believe, Mrs. Phillips, I think, was referring to.
That is a whole different question, and we
Right.
have had that discussion many times with council and certain members of the public in terms of any time that you are considering certain contracts. We have taken the conservative position, especially when we're dealing with personnel contracts, that those contracts are not released until such time as council deals with them. At that time, they become a matter of public record. And that is not an issue that you find in the Faulkner Act. So there is no collision between the Faulkner Act and when this document becomes public record. I don't see a problem that way. I do see, you know, a question from the public as to when are we going to know about it and when are we going to be able to get it, and those are questions that need to be answered and should be answered. But that's not a collision with the Faulkner Act.
Okay. So the public's comment on that should not prevent us from moving forward tonight?
If in your question, if you're asking me, is there a deficiency in this process that springs from the Faulkner Act as posed by the previous public question, I do not see a deficiency in the process that would cause this council not to have jurisdiction to vote.
Okay, thank you.
I think the concern, Mrs. Phillips, and the question Councilman Withers was asking is that this was an agenda item, but and anybody from the public has a right to come up and comment or ask questions on an agenda item, but if they don't know anything about the agenda item, how are they possibly able to comment or ask questions about the item?
Well, I think the answer that we received from the solicitor was that this is similar to a collective bargaining agreement. It's a contract that's being negotiated, and once it's acted on, it becomes a public document.
Yes.
Well, if I could, remembering back to our discussions about collective bargaining agreements, I believe the end point in that discussion, those discussions, was that once the contract was in front of us for action, it would be possible or permissible for the public to see the document that we were about to discuss and act on. This is really a question, I think, of simply the logistics of having available at this point in time copies that people could look at in order to follow along with our discussion or formulate their own questions or comments. It's not that the public would not be permitted to see the agreement until after we had voted on it, because that does kind of negate the whole point of participating in the discussion.
I do not recall the conclusion you shared being the conclusion of our collective bargaining discussions. I mean, as a practical matter right now, through this discussion, council is really putting in the public eye everything that is going on here. So, I mean, any way you want to handle that, but we really sort of, as to this particular document, have crossed the line. And it's a public discussion, and rightfully so at this point in time.
I have a question. Is it unusual for a city manager to have a contract?
It varies. I mean, I have seen city managers and administrators in other communities. I don't know what the history is here, whether Brigantine has had managers with contracts prior to my tenure, but you know, there are contracts out there for administrators and such.
Okay, any further discussion?
I think as long as our solicitor has advised us that this is legal, this document is legal, I like the continuity, the flow from year to year for multiple years, rather than having the possibility of changing every year. Mr. Stinson has done such wonderful work for us, and the city is really moving forward engineering-wise and policy-wise, and I would just like to see that continue for the next 4 years.
I have a question. Is the
3 years and 4 years.
Is the city manager considered a department head? I know, it might seem weird, but
Very candidly, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think the department heads are the department heads. They are heads of a particular function within the community. The department heads are responsible to the city manager, who has a more global responsibility municipality-wide. I mean, in somewhat it's definitional, but I think if you maintain that definitional structure, that the department heads are those senior people running specific operations under the jurisdiction of the manager, it makes sense.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, see none, could we have roll call, please?
No, we need to make.
I'm sorry, we need a motion as amended.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion as amended? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You,
Yes.
Clay,
Abstain.
Withers,
I'll pass for right now.
DeLucre,
For the reasons I stated, it's been my policy that I don't believe that we should have multi-year contracts, so I'll vote no.
Sierra,
Tell you, for me, as an employee, I've been protected by a contract for most of my life. It's one of the most valuable things I've ever had. The value that comes in a contract is, one, continuity. You know what to expect year to year. Two, any questions with employment, any questions, issues, things that come up, you have a hard document that you can refer to. There's no ambiguity. You know what you're getting into, you know what your expectations are, you know what the limits are. I think a contract is very, very valuable, so I vote yes.
Simpson,
We have Ed Stinson for the first year and so many months. The contract that we had with the last city manager, we had none. And even though we had a buyout with her, this doesn't mean when he has a contract, he cannot be fired, terminated, whatever. It just has a buyout clause in it, and it's 90 days. When Hurricane Sandy came to this town, and Ed Stinson was our city engineer, God help us all, and I thank you for that. When he became our city manager and negotiated contracts fairly for both sides for the city of Brigantine and took control, thank you for that. We're elected officials. All of us has a 4-year term. Since Mr. Stinson only wants a 4-year term, and he can be terminated any time in that 4 years, not like us. And I don't see him backing off at any time just because he has a contract. So I'm voting yes.
Withers? He passed, I don't know if that means he
Well,
abstained.
No, I mean, this is a motion on the amendment that reduces
That's correct.
the engineering portion down to 36 months.
That's correct.
So-
Okay.
And at this point, we're in the middle of a roll call. Councilman Withers had passed. Everyone else has now voted, and it is...
I haven't voted.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
At this point, everyone else has voted, and it's normal to go back to the member who has passed. I'm sorry.
no one's ever passed before, so I didn't know how to.
Okay, so that's, okay, so
Yeah.
you now have 6 votes of record. Councilman Withers had passed. We go back to Councilman Withers, and he can do what he deems appropriate.
Withers,
I just wanted to say, I wanted to hear what some of the other council thoughts were on that. I vote yes on this motion for the 3-year term as opposed to the 4-year term.
And Mr. Mayor, through the clerk, that means that the amendment has passed. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, if I may, at this point in time, council has before it the resolution on this contract. The contract is as was originally presented to council, except for the fact it has been amended to have a 36-month term on the engineering position.
Thank you. So we need a motion and a second to approve the contract as amended.
Yes.
Make that motion.
The resolution.
Yes.
Yes.
No, you may not, Mrs. Phillips. We are not in the public portion, and we are not, Mrs. Phillips, and you know the rules better than anyone. Mrs. Phillips. Mrs. Phillips, if you, once again, we're not in the public portion. We have our advice by the solicitor.
Well, this says the exact opposite.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. Okay. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Okay, can we have roll call on the resolution to approve the contract as amended?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Excuse me one moment. Fred, I know we're in the middle of a roll call, but if a member of the public has something that can impact the legality of this vote, do we have a right to hear that person from the public?
That is within the jurisdiction of the chair. That's the mayor's call.
There are obviously rules to running a meeting. We've had a discussion. At any time, we can't have a meeting disrupted by someone who has a difference of opinion on a legal matter. We can go through our roll call, and if there's a problem or a concern, Mrs. Phillips can raise it later.
McClay,
I don't think it's wise to enter into a contract at this time. I'm voting no.
Withers,
I want to go on record on saying that I do not question Ed Stinson's abilities as a city engineer or city manager. But as a council person, I have to do my due diligence in my job. There seems to be some questions here legally. Mrs. Phillips brought up some things. There were some legal questions before. Because of that, I cannot move forward on a vote. I'm going to abstain on this right now.
DeLucre,
For the reasons previously stated, no.
Sierra,
No, one of the questions that has come up is the length of time and binding further council members to decisions. I know one of the things that I look at is the quality of work that he's done, Mr. Stinson has done as the city manager, what he's done as the city engineer. And as you look to move forward, I think that's the kind of person that I would like to keep involved with this city, to keep that type of continuity. I think it's very, very important for the stability of the city to have someone of his caliber in that position. If I didn't think he was up for the challenge, if I thought that giving him a contract would take away from what he does day in and day out, I would not be supportive of that contract. But one of the things I've learned is people are who they are. You know, what makes them makes them them. And one of the things I see with him is an impeccable work ethic. So for me, I'm voting yes.
Simpson,
As I said before, Mr. Simpson has a 4-year term, but he can be taken out of that 4-year term to run his family, his household budget, his life with his family, with his wife and his kids, and you should have some kind of stable. He has to be stable in things, because if not, if we don't have the faith in this guy, and I wouldn't blame him one bit, he'd go look for another job, and God forbid that ever happens, because he's doing one heck of a job. So I'm voting yes. Thanks, Ed.
Mayor Gunther,
Even though we don't get along sometimes.
I actually believe that this contract protects the city, and when you have someone who has exhibited the talent and the ability to do the job, and we have empirical evidence that the job is being done extraordinarily well. I believe that you should try and maintain those services for as long as possible. There's a very clear distinction in here, as the solicitor said. The Faulkner Act covers the city manager's position. That statute still prevails in this contract. The engineering contract is a party to that, to this document, and that is, without a doubt, what we believe those services combined, they are what makes Ed Stinson such a valuable person here in Brigantine. Besides the fact that he has a tremendous work ethic and cares deeply about the community and has an investment in the community, as someone who was born and raised here and decided to stay and have his family here. And as I've mentioned before, I have been to a number of meetings probably dealing with the most important things that had to be taken care of in this community probably since 1962, the storm of 1962. Everybody in this community had the confidence in Ed Stinson to do those tasks. And I can tell you that the meetings that I attended, whether they were about FEMA maps or flood insurance, and Ed Stinson and Jim Bennett and I went to so many meetings we probably don't even remember how many at this time, and the information was changing constantly. It was information that had to be given out to every member of this community that was impacted by Superstorm Sandy. It was, without a doubt, the most important financial issue that thousands of people have dealt with in their lives, with probably the largest investment they have, their homes. And Ed did an extraordinary job. There was no question. In fact, the other communities were relying on Ed many times to get the information from him after he was able to digest it and bring it back and disseminate it. So I think when you see talent and you see someone who has the ability to do the job, we are, in my mind, doing the best thing for the city of Brigantine to give Ed a long-term contract as the engineer, and of course a contract covering the terms of his employment as the city manager, meaning salary and other things that have to be spelled out in a contract. So as Councilman Simpson said, if in fact there is some separation at some point, all of those terms are laid out so everyone knows exactly what they are getting. So I am very pleased that this body chose to take this action, and I think without a doubt, the city of Brigantine is going to be very well served during the term of this contract with Ed Stinson at the helm. So I'm voting yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Fred, would it be advisable, you think, to do the police chief's contract since we're in contract mode at this point? Sounds fine. Okay. We have need a motion to approve an employment contract with Chief James Bennett. We have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Ed, do you want to describe the terms of this agreement, if you would?
Yes, Mayor. This is a contract with Jim Bennett to be the chief of the Brigantine Police Department. It is a 3-year contract. The compensation is $140,831. It is comprised of a base salary of $130,000, longevity at a fixed dollar amount of $9,331, and a uniform allowance of $1,500. As I said, a three-year contract, sir, and vacation is a 30-day vacation. Sick time is 120 hours. Terminal leave is 75% up to 9 months unless he stays for the entire term. And then it would be 1 year.
3 years, 3-year term. This contract also reflects some changes that were made as a result of collective bargaining.
It does, Mayor. In fact, this contract is substantially the same as the contract for the last chief of police, except it results in a salary total compensation that is less than the prior chief, and that is a result of the negotiations that established a fixed dollar amount at longevity instead of the percent that it used to be.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion by council? Okay, seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Anticipating the question that will be posed after I vote yes, police chiefs, fire chiefs by statute are treated differently than city engineers and city managers. They have what amounts to tenure in the position. My one concern generally with the contract is not unique to this contract. It's an outgrowth of the pattern that we've had in our employment contracts since apparently the beginning of time, where there is no rational connection that I can see between the gross amount of sick and vacation time that we afford each year and the amounts of those benefits that are common in the private sector, or that in the case of sick leave particularly, are logically connected to the amount of sick time that a typical person needs. However, I'm not going to ask the chief to take a substantial cut in the benefit package from what he enjoyed when he was covered by collective bargaining agreements, the same as everyone else under the collective bargaining agreements. So I vote yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Well, I knew Jimmy Bennett since I guess he was 5 years old with his brother, climbing all over the refrigerator and over my captain of the Beach Patrol's house. Very proud of him, as I have been proud of every chief we have, police chief and fire chief, that we had in the past and the present. So I'm voting yes.
Mayor Gunther,
It's an honor for me to vote yes as well. You know, we have an extraordinary leader in the police department who has come up through the ranks, has done a great job, has the respect of the men and women who serve in that department. And once again, as I said when we swore Chief Bennett in, I've had the pleasure of working closely with him over the years because of the emergency management function. And without a question, his dedication, his devotion to duty, and his ability to look at a situation and to take the appropriate actions immediately, that decision-making capacity is really unmatched. So I want to congratulate Jim. I'm voting yes, and look forward to him staying at least 3 years.
motion carried.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move into the authorizing the emergency temporary appropriations, which is Resolution 2016-67. Whereas an emergent condition has arisen, the city of Brigantine is expected to enter into contracts and commitments or payments prior to the adoption of the 2016 budget. No adequate provision has been made in the 2016 temporary budget for the aforesaid purposes, and New Jersey statutes allows for this. There's a total emergency appropriation resolution in the amount of $188,750. That would cover all of the departments that are listed below. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
Make that motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Roxanne, is there anything on here out of the ordinary?
No, it's not. It's just a stopgap measure to add to our temporary budget until the full budget is approved. You know, we do our best, as I said when I came before you for the temporary, to anticipate what our amounts are going to be. Sometimes things get paid earlier than they in the beginning of the year, and you need to cover those. These are just basic operating costs that need to be covered until the full budget is approved.
Great. Okay.
Well, just following up on that if I could, Roxanne, the majority seem to be salary and wage items. Does that reflect or does that include any unexpected salary and wage commitments, or is that just the normal operating salaries and wages for the respective departments?
Most of it is the normal operating salary and wage expenses. You know, sometimes you have overtime that you can't anticipate, and you incur it earlier on. There are some payments that we made for retirees for comp and vacation time that we have taken out of the budget and have not used against the reserve in order to protect the reserve as much as possible for accumulated leave, sick time payouts. They were factored into the budget, paid out a little bit earlier, and so therefore they've impacted, you know, the other operations or the other money. So it's not anything really out of the ordinary, just trying to make sure that we keep that reserve intact as much as we can. We've talked about funding, you know, our liabilities. So we factored that in the budget. It came out, we paid it out sooner than I had anticipated. So that's where you see some of the larger numbers. But other than that, everything is just normal operations and impacted by overtime sometimes.
So with respect to the terminal payments or terminal payouts that you mentioned, we had some allocation, I guess, in the initial temporary budget and then perhaps also in the first emergency appropriation?
Well, what we did was we have some allocation of the accumulated leave line item. It wasn't much. We figured in when we did the salary and wage calculation at pretty much right before we moved to the manager's budget, we realized that we could include some of those costs of the termination in your regular salaries and wages, rather than, you know, use the reserve in making those payments. And that was really strictly comp payout, vacation payout.
Yeah.
And so that's really, it just used up more money at the beginning than we had anticipated.
But the comp and the vacation payments that are going to be paid from these emergency appropriations, they're all accounted for in the line items in the budget?
It's in salaries and wages, yes.
All right. Thank you.
So part of this is trying to anticipate what your monthly expenses will be and the timing of those expenses coming through.
Yeah,
it's right, until the budget's passed.
You tried.
Right.
And
Okay, any further comments? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2016-68 is the approval to submit and execute a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 2016 Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ed, do you want to describe this part of the program?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You have two resolutions on your agenda, 68 and 69. They are both authorizing applications for flood mitigation grants. The first one, the one you just read, Mayor, is authorizing an application for an emergency generator at the Public Works Building. The second one is authorizing the application for elevating residential properties that are identified on FEMA's severe repetitive loss list. It's something that we had spoken about at the last meeting. So this first resolution serves to authorize an application for an emergency generator at the Public Works Building.
Okay, any discussion?
Ed, this grant application for the generators, this is a different generator, because we already received generators
That is
from our
correct.
previous grant?
That is correct. We received, a little bit convoluted, we actually received a $100,000 grant for an emergency generator at the fire department. We also received funding through the NJEIT program to replace or install new generators at all of our critical facilities. There's 10 of them, our wells and our sewer lift stations. That infrastructure trust program deals specifically with your infrastructure, so that's why Public Works was not included in that program. So this would be a grant application just for the Public Works building.
Are all those generators now installed and,
They're not installed yet. They're actually out to bid.
okay.
Bid is coming up soon.
Calm down.
How much is this grant for, Dan?
We will be applying for in the neighborhood of 300,000, 253. We're still working on the estimate for the new generator.
And the municipal match is 25%?
Correct.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
Lucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution 2016-69 to approval to submit and execute a grant agreement for flood mitigation grant. Have a motion second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
One quick question. Is there any indication in the grant application when they would be awarding this grant?
The application is due in about 6 weeks, but they don't give themselves a deadline. So it would be, look at the award sometime in the fall, I would say at the soonest. Giving out the money would be after that. There's about 23 eligible properties that were identified. We're still reaching out. We had one public meeting. We only had 2 of those 23 that want to participate. We're going to reach out to the remainders again to see if we can solicit more participation. It's voluntary program.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
Lucre, Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2016-70 is award of professional services contract for engineering services to Watershed Master Plan. And the contract would be awarded to Agnoli Engineering, Inc., is awarded on their contract on their proposal of $13,200. We have a motion and second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, Ed, hopefully at the end of this process, we'll be looking at some significant discounts which will save thousands for the residents.
That is the goal, sir. Agnoli Engineering is one of our consulting engineers in our pool. He is also the engineer that assisted us in our last cycle visit with the community rating system, where we went from a Class 6 to a Class 5. In that process, we scored enough points to warrant a Class 4 award. However, there's a prerequisite of a watershed master plan, which we did not have. By awarding this contract and taking care of creating this watershed master plan, that would then, as long as ISO, FEMA's representative approves it, then it satisfies the prerequisite requirement. If it happens soon, within the next 6 weeks or so, We may receive that Class 4 award in October. If it takes longer to get it approved, we would get that Class 4 award in May. The Class 4, as you may be aware, that would provide a discount of 30% on our flood insurance premiums. Right now, we currently have a 25% discount.
Are you going to oversee this
I will, yes.
as engineer or city manager?
Well, I was actually going to ask, how long have you been working on the community rating system itself?
So how long we've been in the program?
How long have you been involved with the process?
Since, pretty much since 2012 when you hired me, when I came full-time here. We were Class 6 at the time.
Ed, you said the 30% savings on the insurance, the flood insurance, as opposed to the 25% we have now. Do you have a ballpark money value on that, what that is for us?
I did. See if I can
I'm sorry.
remember it.
I hate to put you.
It is significant. It's in the $1 million range, the discount. I'll have to get back to you with the exact number,
Okay,
but it is significant. And in fact, at this moment, we would be the first 4 east of the Mississippi, although there are other communities that are pursuing the Class 4 rating at this time. None have received it yet east of the Mississippi. So I think, we will certainly, if we are successful with this plan and we get it approved, we will be one of the first communities east of the Mississippi to have a Class 4 rating.
So obviously the $13,200 is a good investment to save.
So just on the city's insurance, flood insurance premiums, it would pay for itself, yes.
Great. Okay, can we have a roll call?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Ruther,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
One thing you look at, too, is the consistency of having somebody in a position, working at it from a Class 6 in 2012 to possibly a Class 4 in 2016. So I vote yes.
Simpson,
Well, I just figured up 30% of my flood insurance. If I could save that, at more than the taxes I would be paying to Ed Stinson over the 4 years. So, again, this is why we need people like Ed Stinson, and I vote yes.
Mayor Gunther,
I'm voting yes, and the community rating system, Ed took it over in 2012. The city's been involved in that process for many years. But once again, this is an example of having the ability to take new information and apply it, because this whole system has changed dramatically, and the process has changed dramatically. So you need somebody who can actually take this kind of information and operationalize it in the city of Brigantine to make it work.
And Mayor, if I could, as much as I appreciate the accolades, certainly the emergency management, which is Chief Bennett, Public Works, our construction official, there's many departments that contribute in every day and in all our policies that help us with our community rating. So it isn't me, but I appreciate it, but I'm happy to work with Jim and John and Rich Stevens and the other departments, and that's where we score our points, and that's why we're in the situation we are. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
I apologize myself.
motion carried.
Duly noted.
Phil,
I voted yes, yes.
Motion carried.
I don't remember. Did we vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next we move to Resolution 2016-71, which is award of professional service contract for engineering infrastructure assessment. And this would be awarded to Remington, Vernick, and Walberg Engineers, is based on their proposal of $35,500. We have a motion, a second, please.
I'll make that motion.
There's no contract for Ed Stinson.
second.
Ed, do you want to talk a little bit about the scope of what is going to happen with the study?
Yes, Mayor. This is an assessment of our utility infrastructure, so our water and sanitary sewer systems. It includes the mains, the sewer lift stations, our wells, our water towers, et cetera. We're looking at our system from an operational point of view, from a regulatory point of view, and from a maintenance point of view. And we'll provide, Remington Vernick will provide a 20-year capital improvement plan that will help us maintain, operate, and keep compliant with our water and our sanitary sewer system. The second part of this proposal is a rate study, because once we get our 20-year capital plan, which will be presented to council, then we have to look at what is our rate structure and whether or not our rate structure can fund the capital improvements that are going to be recommended. So it'll be a process, but certainly it'll be valuable information for all of us to have when we're looking at, at long-term planning and operation of our utility.
Okay, any council discussion?
Yeah, one or two questions. In part because there was quite a spread between the two prices. What specifically is the bidder, the successful bidder, proposing to do? I mean, I assume they'll be reviewing our records of what utility infrastructure we have. How about examination or testing in the field? Is that part of this?
It is. So there's all records that we have, though. So no, they won't be digging up our water main to test the conditions of our water main, but they will be visiting every facility that we have, doing an inspection of that from both a maintenance and a regulatory perspective, and then also from for an operational. For example, the well may be 30 years old. It may be pumping at a rate of about 70% of what its original design capacity was, and they'll lay it out where they're going to recommend a replacement of that well in year 3 or year 7. So there'll be facility inspections, there'll be meetings with Public Works and our licensed water operator, and there'll be a review of our maintenance and repair records.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And Ed, what would the rate study analysis tell us once they compile all their data? How will that help us?
Certainly, once we have a 20-year capital plan, or at least a recommended 20-year capital plan, we start looking at what's going to be the cost of financing those improvements. And then we look at what our rate structure is and whether or not we anticipate that we'll be able to fund the improvements that are on our plan with the current rates. Hopefully the answer is yes, but we don't know. It seems to me it was a logical follow-up. Once you do the inspection of our facilities and you generate a 20-year capital plan, we need to look to make sure we can fund it.
Okay, could we have roll call?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2016-72 is a real estate tax refund. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Resolution 2016-73 is a construction permit refund. Can we have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, one question. We get these from time to time. Typically, the amount that's being refunded, is that the full amount that was initially paid on the permits because no work was done and no inspections or other review was done by our construction office? Or do they prorate it if our office did some work before the thing was withdrawn?
The answer is yes. We prorate it. If no work is done, then it would be the full application amount. If there's been any partial reviews, then we bill for those partial reviews, and we would refund the prorated amount.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, move to our consent agenda. We have the Elks raffle license 770 and 771, the Marine Mammals Training Center raffle license 772, the Brigantine Beach Volleyball request, the Marine Mammals Training Center annual run for the animals request, and I believe we have a parade request for the
do,
baseball.
Mayor. Baseball, softball opening day parade on April 16th.
Okay, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sierra,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, next we go to the council manager. and-
Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
I think we have do you have the hard surfing also?
Oh,
That was do you have
No,
that?
I missed that one.
I missed that one, Ian.
There's also the
Was
resolution
added.
authorizing the execution of the agreement with the shared service agreement with the
Yes.
ACUA.
And I apologize for missing that. Somewhere in here. Here we go. All right, we have a resolution authorizing the shared service agreement between the Atlantic County Utilities Authority and the City of Brigantine for solid waste, bulky waste, recycling, and yard waste collection services. We should probably put in there for residential. Residential pickup. Okay, can we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Okay, Ed, this contract has some unique features going forward, which are very, very positive to the city of Brigantine, that I think will help to control litter, but also to increase recycling. So why don't you talk about the cans that are in here?
Thank you, Mayor. The contract, to start with, is pretty much exactly the same services as what has been occurring. It's the collection of the recycling, the trash, and yard waste. We added this year the provision to supply trash carts and recycling carts to all of our residential properties. So there's that provision in this contract. The ACUA will finance the cost of that over the 7-year term of the contract. So it amounts to about a $95,000 per year cost to provide the trash and recycling carts. Even with that, the net result of this contract is roughly a $9,000 increase from last year's contract.
And that's $9,000 increase, but adding the trash and recycling carts. So for the public, the carts are the wheeled large containers that hopefully with the lids that are attached will dramatically cut down on the amount of trash that gets airborne on trash day, or seagulls take apart the plastic bags, and then we have a mess at the curb. And also the recycling containers are the larger ones, which hopefully will encourage more recycling. So we may see savings on the tipping fees by increasing the recycling amount going forward. So for that, for those two items to be added into the contract and for us to have only a $9,000 increase over last year's contract is actually a very, very good deal for the city of Brigantine. Will go a long way to keeping our community clean and encouraging recycling. So it makes sense.
They do have studies. The ACUA has studies that show that with the larger recycling containers, recycling does go up. And likewise with the lidded trash receptacles, because we pay a tipping fee by weight with the lid, it reduces the amount of water or rainwater that gets that saturates the trash, which would increase our tipping costs. So there looks to be, historically anyway, the ACUA sees a reduction an increase in the recycling, which reduces our trash costs, and likewise a reduction in the trash costs for the water saturation.
Ed, this annual fee for the service for trash pickup, that is the base fee we pay annually, and then the trash is weighed and we pay by the ton?
That is correct.
Okay. I would like to say that the green team, especially Cheryl Mascioli, who did an analysis on recycling for the city, she's going to be very pleased with this, as well as many members of the green team, because this is something we've been working on, a lot of actions with recycling with the real estate offices. So this is definitely a positive and a plus for the city, and I'm very happy to have both cans.
Councilman Simpson whispered to me that residents should know, and everyone gets one of these, one trash and one recycling container for free.
I just think visually on Trash Day, the neighborhoods are going to look so much better, not only to not have the seagulls plucking through the open containers and the bags, but just to have the uniformity of the two cans and not like 5 different kinds of trash cans and recycling cans out. I really think it's going to clean up our neighborhoods. Thank you.
I know just from personal experience too, I actually own both recycling and regular trash carts, and it's made a huge difference. One, it's made things more convenient for getting trash in and out. And two, having the larger recycling bin actually has helped me to recycle more. I actually fill up the huge recycling bin more often than I actually even come close to filling up my trash can, and it's actually helped my relationships with my neighbors. Unknowing to me this, I would put the trash out, the lid would blow off, my neighbor would go out and clean it up before they went to work. And my wife actually ordered the cans. It showed up on my birthday, and jokingly I thought my neighbor bought it as a birthday present as a hint. So I'm very glad to see this move forward. I know it's made a difference in my life. Hopefully it makes a difference in everyone else's.
One other thing I think should be said. It's pretty good when you get a combination of a great price and great service. The ACUA, I think, without question, gives us that. And just so the people who have been involved in the condominium pickup issue know, this agreement tonight, as I think was mentioned, does not include the condominium properties, but that doesn't mean that that's an issue that's been forgotten or put aside. The plan, as I understand it, is to continue talking with the representatives from the condominiums as well as the ACUA, because the ACUA is, I would imagine, quite likely to make a proposal to either take over or participate in the pickup from the condominiums. And the target time, I believe right now, is we'd like to have something in place maybe by the 1st of the year that would cover the condominiums and others who are subject to the Municipal Services Act.
Okay, any further comments? I do have to comment that it looks like the one issue we can all agree on is trash. So, with that said, could we have roll call, please?
Few,
Yes.
McClay,
Yes.
Withers,
Yes.
Lucre,
I'll remind the mayor that plastic bags are trash, but yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Trash. Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Program.
Okay, now we move to the council manager committee discussion.
There's still one item.
Oh,
The
okay.
consent agenda item, Heart of Surfing, they're a nonprofit organization. They give free surfing and skateboarding lessons for children with autism. They want to use the skate park on Saturdays, April 16th through June 18th from 3 to 5. They did it last year.
Yep, no problem. Could we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. We can now move on to the council manager committee discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 items for me. One, to advise Mayor and Council and the public that ice cream vending permits will be available, or we will begin accepting applications April 21st. it's the same process that we did last year. It would be with the vets, but wanted to get it a little bit earlier start than we did last year. And also there is a master plan review, a public meeting to review a master plan that is scheduled for the 13th, next week. And the public is invited to attend.
And that's at the community center, Ed? Yeah, from
Yes, it
4 to
is.
7
Yes, it is.
on the 13th. So actually, it's, I guess, to get feedback from the community as the plan's being developed?
That's correct.
Right.
It's the very beginning of that process, yes.
Good. So if anyone has any suggestions pertaining to zoning and planning, the meeting is from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock at the Brigantine Beach Community Center. Come down and talk to our consultants, and that information will be at least discussed as part of the plan.
Ed, who is it that's running that and that's involved in that meeting?
There is a committee from the planning board, and then our consultant is Mazer Consulting, and Landgraf as our planning board planner.
Okay, anything else, Ed?
That's all I have.
Great. Are there any committee reports?
Actually, I have the Brigantine Beach Cultural Arts Commission will be hosting a jazzy afternoon. It's going to be Sunday, April 24th at Laguna Grill at 1 p.m. We'll have Larry McKenna will be here along with several other well-known jazz musicians from the area. So if you're interested in tickets, you can contact Mary at 266-1685. And if you want to buy them ahead of time, they're $40. If you want to buy them at the door, $45. It should be a great event.
Thank you, Vince. Okay. This point, we're going to open the meeting for public comment. Anyone would like to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Yes, Chuck.
Chuck Herberman, 321 6th Street South, Unit 3. I'm sure everybody's reading the newspaper, but I don't know if everybody can grasp the total irresponsibility that's going on over in Atlantic City, and that all Atlantic City's problems are going to piggyback to county government, and then they are going to piggyback to local government. Atlantic City's been so responsible. If you look at the city, and it doesn't have local legislator support. The reason it doesn't have local legislator report is the city of Newark pays $3,500 in municipal services for its residents. The city of Patterson pays $2,700 in municipal services per resident. The city of Atlantic City pays $6,500 per city resident. Right now what they're doing with funds is they are testing what they can get away with. I am pro bondholder. As if you've heard me talk about accounting, one of my best friends is with McMenamin and Chapman, and I'm very pro bondholder. And everybody's going to get screwed. Nobody knows the full ramification of what's coming down the road. I think everybody read the article where the Atlantic City Board of Ed was shorted $150 million, and we don't know what else they're doing, but they're just testing what they can get away with. Next, the issue of authorities. We have an authority in our life. There's a New Brunswick Improvement Authority that the CRDA floated a $800 million bond issue that never got to New Brunswick. And these independent authorities around the state are fascinating structures. If you wanted to, Mayor, we could create a port authority here, and you could have the power of the Newark Port Authority, or the New York, New Jersey Port Authority. Now, I want to make sure I got it right, because of the way the laws are in this state. So that I just thought I'd bring to your attention that this is a real crisis that's going on over there in Atlantic City. And Levinson met with the governor this week?
Today.
Right. Okay. I read something about last week, and he said don't give me any work without giving me a check. And that's something we all have to be sensitive to, that whatever's going on over there is to my mind as an accountant, what I see in the newspaper is flat out scary. Last but not least, how are my Boy Scouts doing, Andy?
They're doing well. We're going to have a meeting, I believe it's either next week or the early part of the following week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Excuse me, Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. As of this afternoon, there was no agenda on the city's website. Something needs to be done to correct this whole system. It certainly isn't satisfactory. So there used to be complaints just a few years ago when the agenda wasn't up, and I think more notice should be taken now that the situation is not acceptable. And I think you can all agree that the people should have the agenda available to them on a website more than, well, they didn't have it at all today, and certainly it should be done by the beginning of the week. So please take care of this. Something was mentioned about the website, I believe.
Yes.
And I don't know what you're doing.
A new website company and host that is being worked on right now. I know Chief Bennett and City Manager are working on it, so either of you want to address what's being done?
To answer your question, Mrs. Phillips, we are moving to another company. The company you heard mentioned earlier was Joyce Media. They have about 15, maybe 20 other municipal websites that they do. When this project is finished, we don't have an estimated completion time, maybe 6 weeks, a month to 6 weeks. We will have direct access to specific areas to the website that will allow, for example, the clerk's office to bypass emailing it to somebody or hoping somebody puts it up, and the clerk's office will be able to directly upload
Yes.
and set those documents, as well as myself, the fire chief, the city manager, and select other individuals. So the project is underway. We just sent the first purchase order out to them this past week.
Okay, and what about on-demand access to the council meetings?
Well, the on-demand access right now, we redid some of the equipment in the back there, and I'm actually sitting here with my tablet because I'm testing the recording feature to make sure that it's working. As of right now, we don't have anything from Comcast. As you know, as a residential customer, dealing with Comcast can be difficult. Being a government entity makes it almost impossible. That being said, we have some emails and phone calls out to try and secure a DVR system. Comcast will not and cannot, by the nature of our broadcast, set up an actual on-demand like we have with our television remote with the local channel 2, because it's stored off-site in one of their servers someplace. Our channel 2 does not leave the city of Brigantine, believe it or not.
No, I know.
It's only here.
That's the point of getting it available on demand to anybody in the state
Right.
who
Well,
has,
that's
is a
like I said,
Brigantine
it's-
taxpayer.
it is being recorded right now, and either tonight or tomorrow morning it will be uploaded to the city's YouTube webpage, and then they can look at it whenever they want. We have
Okay.
no size limit on our YouTube, so whenever we put it up there, it's viewable.
Okay, that sounds good. I've heard about, going to YouTube as another means of doing this.
Yes,
so,
ma'am. We have an official YouTube site, if you will, and that's where the videos will be.
Beginning
Tomorrow morning.
tomorrow. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, now I'd like to return to the subject
Take
of
that
the...
as a positive. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Phillips.
I'd like to return to the subject of the contract, and something I think that you should be aware of. Maybe you are, but it wasn't noticeable in your vote. So there appears to be, I believe, a bit of confusion among some council members concerning the position of a city manager under the council manager form of government, which we have under the Faulkner Act. It's not a question of qualifications or continuity. It's not the same as a collective bargaining agreement. It is a matter of the legal relationship between a city manager and the governing body, in this case, the city council. And this is what the Faulkner Act states clearly. Citing the fact citing the Faulkner Act in the resolution does not remove the contradiction that is between this resolution and what the act says. So it's the first sentence in this portion on the council manager form of government, and it says, the municipal manager shall, not may, shall hold office for an indefinite term and may be removed by a majority vote of the council. You have voted for a contract with a definite term, which is clearly prohibited in the Faulkner Act. And I think what you did was illegal, and it appears to be, and simply by mentioning the Faulkner Act in the resolution does not remove that contradiction. So you have a contract with a definite term, and the law requires an indefinite amount of time. So I think you have some correcting to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. I'll defer to our legal counsel. I think it just clearly, in my mind, it defines for the next 3 or 4 years, it defines the compensation for that term. That doesn't, and it's very clear in this agreement that it does not in any way contradict the Faulkner Act, because it's still the same clause it's directly stated from the Faulkner Act in terms of if the manager were to be removed or to terminate employment.
How can you have a definite term in this contract and still be an indefinite term?
Well, and I'll let the solicitor talk about this, you're defining the compensation for that term.
But he's been this manager for a year now. He's getting paid, obviously, under certain conditions, which council has put forth. So that can continue. But you have defined a clear number of years. And also, another objection, you are granting in this contract an automatic 2% increase per year. I think that's a lack of judgment, a lack of wisdom, and it should not be an automatic increase. It should be based on performance and council's pleasure with the service of its appointee, which is the whole point here. This is not like some other contractor person in the administration. It's specifically a city manager. You can't have a contract with a definite term of employment, and that's what you've done. It makes it very clear.
Well, obviously, you're reading it differently than...
No, I'm not reading the words. Indefinite does not mean definite.
Well, first of all, you haven't seen this document yet, so after you read it...
You have a term in that contract.
It defines...
Yes or no?
The term defines the compensation for the next 4 years.
Well, that's a term of office.
It does not say you're appointed for 4 years. It defines the compensation for 4 years. Did you read it differently, Mr. Stern?
The language that Mrs. Phillips quotes is indefinite because you can be removed by a majority vote of council. Now, that's what the Faulkner Act says. That language is picked up directly in the agreement. The agreement says that notwithstanding anything to the contrary that's in the agreement, the employer maintains all the rights to terminate in accordance with that section. So as we have this conversation tonight, we don't know that Mr. Stinson's going to be here for 4 years, even if he wants to be, because at any time, a majority of council, in accordance with the language that is both in the Faulkner Act and in the agreement, says a majority can terminate him. Notwithstanding anything else in the agreement, he can be terminated. That's indefinite. And that was what was said in the earlier portions of the discussion, that this agreement is subservient to the Faulkner Act. It is specifically written that way. The Faulkner Act controls.
Yes, I understand that. And I heard what you said. That's why I said there's a contradiction. But you have a term in there. Yeah, you're disguising it or trying to avoid facing it, but it is a term. It's not something that you should be doing. It's not what this was not designed to
Well,
do.
here's the difference, Mrs. Phillips, in my mind. If the city manager were, the majority of council voted to remove the city manager does not get paid for the remainder of this contract. They get paid for what is allowed under the Faulkner Act. Is that correct?
It's a 90-day.
90 days. It's exactly what is in the Faulkner Act.
That's a term of office and the removal process and a public hearing and so on. Yes, that's included in here. That's
Do you
correct.
understand what I'm saying? The contract doesn't guarantee it just spells out what the compensation is going to be if, in fact, the manager stays for 4 years. Manager may decide he's going somewhere else, but he doesn't get anything more than what he would get under the statute.
Then why are you putting it in there? If he's going to be here for a year, he's going to get paid. You know what the salary is. You have definitely put in a term there.
Well, I think we,
And you mentioned even continuity. Oh, indeed, there is a term here. It's not indefinite at all.
it still
And I think
isn't-
it's a violation of the law.
Well, then I'm sure that we will get something from you in that regard, and that will be dealt with.
Well, I think the public should be aware of this. And also, I don't think any pay raise should be automatic in this
Well, that's
situation.
Okay, well, thank you. And the public is aware of your opinion.
I hope so, because that's why we're all here, for public participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Let me just say something. Last time I was in with the old city manager, and we had a termination with the old city manager. Didn't have a contract. At least in this contract, it spells out the terms and conditions. We had to negotiate through Mr. Cerny over here and the rest of the council what was going to be her package, even though she didn't have a contract. Under the Faulkner Act, she gets a certain amount of things, and you know, if you spell it out now, you don't go into lawsuits later, you know. So spelling it out right now with a contract, and if 4 of us sit there and say we want a race letter, and that's the proper thing to do, give a race letter to Ed, and we come in and vote, and there's 4 votes against Ed, he's out under those terms and conditions. And that's what he gets. He doesn't get a boat, he don't get a yacht, he doesn't get a Maserati, he doesn't get any of that. He gets 90 days and whatever else was in that contract. So spelling it out now is going to help down the line. And to give him a peace of mind to stay on with the city of Brigantine, it helps every taxpayer in the city of Brigantine. Don't put your hands up. You're the most negative person I ever met, Mrs. Phillips. So this is a good thing for the city of Brigantine, good thing for this council, good thing for Mr. Stinson and his family.
Yeah, let me,
Mr.
sorry, you done, Andy?
Yes, good.
Let's clarify one thing and make sure that the record is 100% clear on this point. You noted that you negotiated termination with the last manager.
No, I didn't.
No, you said with all, hold on, you said with all of council. Let me remind you, Andy, that on the first meeting, am I going to talk, Andy, or are you going to talk over me?
You're the second most negative person I've ever met in my whole life.
Well, I'm going to try to be number 1 in your book, Andy, if I
Okay,
can.
you are number 1.
Here's for the record, and this
Here
is
we go.
factual. The first meeting of council in 2015, you and the mayor presented the remaining members of council with a contract or an agreement, a severance agreement, that you had privately negotiated with the now former manager, with no input and no involvement from myself or the other then sitting Democratic members of council. So I would be a little hesitant if I were you to use that situation and that experience as an
Well, if you
example
want
of
to go back
anything.
and we talked about it in an executive session.
You brought to us, Andy,
Yeah,
an
we
agreement
talked
that
about
you
it in
had
executive session.
negotiated outside of council with no authorization
about it
from
in the
council. No, that's the fact, Phil, and that,
that's the
if
fact,
Andy's
but
going to
we-
talk about
we
that,
talked
I'm going to put
about
that
it
on the
in
record.
executive session.
Right. Well, let's once again, there was a starting point to a process that was put in place, and it was
Now we don't have to
voted
bring it
on by city
Oh,
council
yeah.
members. But interestingly enough, We seem to forget, as the sitting mayor, I find out that we hired a public safety director that all of you knew about after the fact. So, you know, once again, you know, we can go back and rehash past history, but I think the most important thing right now is to move forward, and we're in a public portion at this time. Mr. Pucci, are you?
Wait, I have one more comment on something Ms. Phillips said. I'd like to ask Chief Bennett.
Yes, sir.
Don't let's be so formal, Chief. Does the city website now, or will it, have a link or other indicator to steer people to the city's YouTube channel for whatever videos we're posting in the future?
It will. I don't believe it does now. Right now, I think the only link is to our live Ustream broadcast. The new one will have a link directly to the, I believe it's called City of Brigantine on YouTube. But we actually have a channel that we can upload videos to. So
Okay.
yes, the new one will have it.
All right, so anybody who accesses our website will be able pretty easily to, just by clicking on the link, get to the
Correct, and
videos.
they'll be dated, so like this meeting that goes up will say City Council meeting 4/6/2016, so they'll be able to find what they want by date.
Okay, thanks.
Great. John?
Couple little things, Mayor. And welcome to the meeting. Apologize for not recognizing you before. The master plan meeting, are there specific representatives from the Chamber of Commerce and also our Economic and Development Committee going to be there? Designated representatives?
I expect that they will be, yes.
Thank you. We going to hire a new police officer? Did I hear that
Yes.
earlier? I'm sorry.
Yes, we did. Yes.
You did?
He actually was the guy at the gate tonight.
Oh, I thought
Yes.
he looked, you know. Was the officer sworn in yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I think sometimes we do.
Not formally
Right.
before council.
Right.
He was sworn in at the clerk's office. He has to go through the academy to complete the academy. When he does, then we'll swear him in formally in front of council.
Let me ask, are all police officers, new police officers, and firemen always sworn in at council?
It has always been the practice that once they complete the academy, they're finished all of their training, they get sworn in here at City Council.
Okay, that's great, because I think I'd heard in the past, maybe they got sworn in during the day. I wasn't sure of that, and I'm just respectfully asking both chiefs that when they formally get sworn in, that they're always done at council, because that really goes to my bones and means a lot to me that I see that at council meetings. So I'm just requesting it if it's not policy.
No, it will be, and it's certainly a proud day for the new firefighter, EMT, or new police officer and their family, so it should be done here at a public meeting.
The trash, what's the provisions on the bulk stuff, or the vegetation that they pick up? I guess there's no specific cans for that.
Yeah, John,
do we know
how's
how
that
that's
gonna be
going to handle? The vegetation
Yard
waste?
waste.
The yard
What do you
waste
put in
will
it?
be in the biodegradable bags or in a container with a lid clearly marked yard waste. No plastic bags.
Sounds good enough, thank you. The amendment for the city manager's contract, did that need a second? And if so, who seconded the amendment? Because I don't believe I heard a second. Councilman Sarah amended it.
Karen did? Yeah, I think it was.
Okay, so there was a second for the record? Thank you. The job descriptions for the city manager and also for the city engineer, I have those and I have read them in the past. I just ask, when was the last time they were reviewed? And also specifically, because we're in a position where we have a contract now where the same professional is city manager and city engineer, should a job description be written up for that position and approved?
Well, Yeah.
I'll look at them, I'll bring them to Fred, and we'll take a look, and if something needs to change, we'll bring it back.
Ed, is that part of the policy review that you're doing too? Are the job descriptions included in that?
Not in this initial round with the policies, but it is something I can take with Fred, we'll take a look at it.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to add that specifically with the city manager, I believe Mr. Stenson has an open door policy. I have called and set an appointment and visited his office on numerous occasions for Veterans Affairs and also issues that I wanted him to hear with the city. And he's always welcomed me with open arms. He's been very respectful. He has given me feedback on the meeting. So I just want to state that unless he wants to challenge my comment, that this city manager has an open door policy. And I thank the city, the council, and him for this resident being able to do the best I can in helping the city government with the city of Brigantine.
Me too.
I know you all know that the agenda wasn't on the website today, and I know we're in the process of fixing it. Can we come to a consensus now that that's being formulated? Can we come to council? I'm asking the council to come to this consensus. What time period should the public have the agenda by? I mean, can you kind of give us, well, we should have it by Monday, you know, the meeting's Wednesday. Can you kind of let us know what you think? Should it be Friday when the council members get it? Because now we're going to be able to put it on there ourselves.
Right.
So is there a consensus by, you know, what the public has enough time to read it, the interested parties,
Right.
and to be able to review? That's what I'm asking for.
And I'm sure they'll post it as soon as they can. The problem you have is with any public body that, like for instance, the trash, the final contract came in this afternoon. So, I mean, that could be added when it comes in, but it's, you know what I'm saying, John, there are going to be things that are, and it's clearly stated on the agenda that we have can add things or take things off the agenda. You don't always know right up to the last minute. So
I understand, but to the extent known that you send it out to the council members,
right,
to that extent, that draft, certainly things can be added. But that initial draft of the agenda, the basic body of the next meeting, is there a consensus of council when that can be sent out by? What date do you feel that we could have it by? So a plan to go by.
If I could.
Expectancy.
Every time we attempt to do something, then that becomes the new standard.
Right.
And if we don't make it, then we're dogs and we're messing up. We do our best. There are circumstances when the clerk is out or any number of circumstances. Generally speaking, we get the agenda together on Friday, and we email that out to council, and we send it to our website on Friday. We will continue. I've said that before. We will continue in that effort. That is our goal. That is what we will attempt to do. And when we have our new website, that process should work smoother because we will have the ability to upload that document to our website ourselves. So the clerk will be able to, as she emails council the agenda, the draft agenda, she would then be able to upload it on the website. But please keep in mind, sometimes we don't get it on Friday, and then all of a sudden, what are we hiding, or why didn't we? That's not the case. We try on Friday, we do our best to get it there, and we will continue that.
Why don't we see how the new website comes up and then see how it goes from there, John?
I would suggest, Councilman, that we initiate with a benchmark. Let's have something there, understanding that it's going to be in the process of renewing and whatnot, and if that needs to be adjusted, we'll take a look at it, and surely it can be stated, oh, well, we didn't make this all, but, I mean, are we talking Wednesday afternoon here, or are we talking Monday morning? That's what my question is. What is the expectancy that we can start out with? I mean, you know, 48 hours, what are we talking about
About
here?
at the latest.
I think what you're
8 a.m.
looking at, John, is
Wednesday.
that Monday would be probably, you know, a doable
Well,
timeframe.
Monday's the problem, because we get it on Friday, we look at it over the weekend, and then we shoot him emails, you know, the city manager. And then if there's a change, then there's a change. And you're gonna get the same thing we got, and it's gonna be a change. You know, I would like to see it Tuesday morning.
Or how about if
you
we
know.
say at
And
the latest?
And that's up to the
It's a-
website,
it's
too.
a target.
We have to see
Right.
how that comes
It's
up.
a target. Yeah.
It's a target. It's a moving target all the time.
I think
you know-
sometimes you can post the agenda without the attachments, but I think the public would like to see the attachments. So if you pick a realistic date, like end of workday Tuesday, have the agenda posted with attachments, because I think that's what you would like to see too, not just the
I'm
agenda.
for being realistic, but I'm just, when should I start looking for it? You know, I don't want to keep going, oh, well, it's not there yet. I'm just asking for a
Because
reasonable.
sometimes we
that
get
could
it
be
with no
changeable
attachments.
benchmark date. A couple were mentioned.
Let's-
Is there a
let's-
consensus?
Let's get
What we
Jim
can work
Bennett to
with.
get it up and running, and then we can go from there. Then we can talk about it next meeting. By then, maybe you'll have it up and running.
Hopefully by the next meeting, we should have a progress update. How it's going to work, real short, is once he gets the purchase order, he's going to start designing the new site. He will send us a private web address for us to review it. Myself, the manager, other department heads to review it. So if we get things rolling, maybe by the next council meeting, we'll have maybe a baseline.
But in the meantime, we still have the old website.
Yes, ma'am.
So we could still get the agenda up there in a timely manner with the website we have now.
We'll look at it next meeting.
Right. Whatever you,
Yeah.
Mr. Simpson can do.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I
Okay,
just have one question to follow up on something John just asked about the yard waste. Does yard waste require a lid also? Because sometimes there are sticks sticking up and out.
Every waste can requires a lid.
Okay.
So if it's sticking up like branches, branches are supposed to be bundled in 4-foot
Right.
sections
Okay.
with twine, so they wouldn't be sticking up. Grass in a can with a lid or in a biodegradable bag.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
John, the solid waste pickup by ACOA, does that kick in next week?
The 13th, I
I'm
believe.
going to say yard waste, not solid waste.
Yeah, the yard waste.
Yeah,
is the
15,
13th.
yeah.
Okay.
Middle of month.
It's coming up soon.
All right, thank you.
So John, are you saying that recycles should have lids on it? The
Well, the new
recycle
ones
cans we
will.
have now?
new ones will.
No, I mean the ones we have now. Are you saying they should be lidded?
All waste by ordinance, yes.
Well, that's not waste, though.
Well, that's the fine line.
Exactly.
But our new ones will, yes.
Only, yeah,
Because we know on a windy day,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's always
Last week,
windy and
there was a lot of it.
recycling day, as we know.
So technically, the cans we have now should be lidded. Oh, well.
Okay, any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Timely topic, right?
Well, I'm wondering if it is timely or if this is a bad use of our time. By end comment down here, I made a note about.
If you would, I'm sorry, could, name and address for the record?
Monica Malone, 329 36th Street, and I am here on behalf of the Sanderling Condominium Association and the 1012 Condominium Association.
Thank you.
But there seems to be a major issue with communication, and I think maybe somebody should do some thinking about that and the value that you place on communicating with the public, because we've heard multiple comments. I also was on the website last night looking for the agenda to assure that this topic was going to be discussed tonight. I also took a day off from work to attend a meeting because we were led to believe that this trash situation was going to be implemented imminently. We were told July 1st. And apparently that was all misinformation and that was not corrected. So myself and several other people have put an investment of time into this that apparently was very premature based on misinformation. So I think that you should give some more thought to communicating with the public and the value that you place on that, because the public thinks it's very important, whether or not you do. Can we get an update as to what's going on, what changed?
So, ma'am, as I stated at that meeting, I was going to bring this back to council tonight, and we were going to discuss it, and then I would get back to all the associations after tonight's meeting. So in terms of miscommunication or false information, I respectfully disagree with your statements. At the time when we held the meeting, that was all in an effort to be open and have a public meeting with as many associations that could come and openly discuss this process, and that's what we tried to do. The result of that meeting is why I came back to council and said, you know what, let's separate the trash agreement, collection agreement with the ACUA for the residents. Let's get that done, and we will revisit the issue with the condominium associations. My recommendation to council is that if we are going to implement anything, it will take place January 1st. That way we can give enough time, because if you recall at that meeting, many of the associations felt that the July 1st start was very problematic, and we heard that. That was, again, the process of communication that I thought worked well. We heard that, we brought that back and obviously considered it, and I think moving forward, we will be reaching out to the associations, and we're going to have another meeting and certainly have more information, but I have a little bit of legwork to do with council and with the ACUA.
And I think it's wise to not do it on a holiday weekend.
Right.
So January is probably a better decision.
Monica, I just want to, I did not attend that meeting, but I did have a long conversation with the manager after the meeting, and the communication was two-way. I think a lot of things that came up at that meeting weren't things that we thought about prior to the meeting in terms of the logistics of doing this, as well as what the condominium owners, how they dealt with trash on their property, and what some of their concerns were. So it was, as far as I'm concerned, the information I got back was very useful, and I think something that all of us will talk about as we go forward. But along with that, I think we're also getting a handle on the financial piece of this as well. And I think we'll all have a better understanding going forward as to what we should do with respect to the condominiums, whether it's, you know, staying as it is, whether it's going with the Atlantic County utility, whatever process that is. I think we have a better understanding of the financial piece now as a result of that meeting. So it was productive, and as Ed said, we aren't anticipating doing anything right now until we get more information. Status quo for the summer.
Okay. Well, that brings us to another issue, which is the current calculation of the trash reimbursement. And I'm sure that your financial officer informed you that we had an accountant look at the way it has been calculated recently, and we don't know how far back this goes. But some background. When I became involved with condominium associations, I trotted down here to City Hall, and I forget who it was that I spoke with, but somebody was very nice and took the time to explain to me how this calculation was done. And what I was told at that time, and I've been told several times since then, is that the reimbursement for the condominium associations is calculated by taking the average cost per household in the town for the households that the town picks up the trash, and then that average cost is multiplied by the number of condominium units you have, and that's the upper limit, the top limit on what you can get for reimbursement for trash. At some point, well, for a while, both associations that I was connected with received full reimbursement. There was no problem. Everyone was happy. Things went along merrily. And I don't recall what the trash pickup was at 10/12. I think we must have been getting more than one a week because at one point we had the ice cream parlor down there. At the Sanderling, we had once a week pickup year-round, and in the summer we had a second pickup. And there was never a problem with getting reimbursed. And it makes sense when you consider it because it's less expensive to pick up one dumpster than to run around and pick up trash from 20 houses. So we should be able to sneak in a few extra pickups there for the same price. So that all made sense. Something happened somewhere along the way, and we stopped getting full reimbursement, which is why when we got annoyed enough about it, we looked into it, and we discovered that there's some funny math going on. You know, it certainly isn't the way I was taught to do averages. This year's reimbursement, or I guess it was last year's reimbursement when we started doing the research, was calculated by taking the cost of trash pickup that the city puts out for the individual residences and dividing it by all the residences, including the condominiums. Now, that's not quite the way I was taught to do averages. You should be dividing by the same number of elements that you add up. But this explains, you're going to come up with a very low number. So this explains why we're no longer getting the full reimbursement. We have contacted the city about this. We have not yet gotten a response as to what they're going to do about it, but we are certainly looking for a resolution.
Ed, I don't know if you want to talk about how that number
still,
is calculated?
It is still being worked out. We're reviewing past records is what we're doing, but essentially the way Ms. Malone described it, the number of, the cost that we pay the ACUA to collect residential trash divided by the number of residential units that we actually collect, that determines a per unit cost. And that is what my understanding is, that is what the reimbursements have been based on. But we are looking into what has occurred in the past. And interestingly enough, moving forward, we have a proposal now from this ACUA to collect once a week from the condominium associations, which actually would result in a lower per unit cost than what we have calculated in the past. And we're looking into all of this, Mayor, and Roxanne has been working on it, and we're meeting with Fred, and we'll have the information that is necessary.
So, absent of any formula given to us by the state as to how to calculate this, you have to come up with a formula that makes sense. But I have to tell you that a lot of the condominiums that were approved over the years, I know the law was back in the 90s, I think, Fred, this came in. Prior to that, I mean, the ones that were approved, the density issue and talking about the services, a lot of it was that they were going to be self-contained, that they were going to be taking care of all of these services that were prior, obviously, that were provided for residential, were going to be part of this condominium.
They get approved as motels.
Yes.
Yeah, as a commercial property, you had to take care of your own trash.
So that brings up some concerns, but obviously we have to do it the fairest way possible. Fairness for the condominium owners and obviously fairness for all the taxpayers involved. And that number will be worked out, and hopefully you'll be able to provide the input, to Ed to continue to look at that, to make sure we're doing it right.
I heard two different things. I'm a little confused. When you divide the number of residents into our total cost for trash collection, did you say you include the condominium units? Because I think Ms. Malone said that is used in the calculation now.
So that's
Which
what she
one
said.
is it? Because I'm not sure.
Okay, well, that's what she said. I'm saying that we take the total cost and divide it by the number of residential units that we
Not
collect
including.
from.
Okay,
Correct.
that's not
However,
including.
what I'm also saying is that we also can use the proposal that we have from the ACUA to collect the trash from the condominium associations and use that as the basis of our cost and reimburse based on that. I have to actually go through this with the attorney. There's some information. The bottom line is we are working on it. I understand Ms. Malone's question. I am looking at past,
Right.
and we're gonna make sure that we're doing it right. We're doing it in accordance with the statute, and we'll make sure of it. And I'll get that information together, and we'll move forward.
Good.
Okay.
So wait, does that include, not to complicate this, includes the tipping fee and the collection fee? Okay. Because, I don't know, you've looked at the numbers, but we just approved the contract that essentially without the addition of the cans went down.
That's correct.
So I'm wondering if the tipping fees are going down, you know, our year-round population has decreased, so are we seeing a decrease in that as well?
I believe we are, yes.
So what may also be a factor is that the number being, that you're dividing into may be smaller, if that makes sense.
Also, the municipal tipping fee is less than the gate rate, which is paid by the association's private holding.
So there are a number of factors there that, you know, once again, this is something that should be discussed and everyone has an understanding of how it's being done.
Okay, and the information that I'm providing is, which the financial officer already has, that when our accountant looked at it, there were mistakes in the math.
Okay.
Which was a problem, so we're looking for an answer to that.
And you provided that to the CFO?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
She wasn't here last year.
Right, when it was done.
We were looking into it.
I suspect you're not thanking me, but.
I just want to ask.
And then the
5
new
minutes are up.
proposal
Go ahead.
is, you know, a whole separate issue, which sounds like it should be, you know, a good deal for everyone. We're just concerned that we get what we need out of it. And you can't equate a trash can in front of a single-family residence with a group of 20 families who are all putting their stuff into a dumpster. They're not equivalent situations, and they need to be considered differently.
Right, but I think the law is clear that we have to reimburse at the rate that the resident, our costs.
Okay,
are.
well, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about reimbursement now. I'm talking about the new proposal
You still wanna
for
get
not
your
having
two-week
reimbursement, having
pickup.
collection. And it seemed to me the biggest issue at that meeting was the concern that condominium associations, especially the larger ones, one pickup a week is not adequate for a variety of reasons.
Right.
And you can't equate 20 people running down to a dumpster and putting their trash in it with a single trash can outside of a single residence. They're not equivalent situations.
But not to get too far into the weeds on this, but our cost is based on once a week pickup. So when they use that number,
Okay, I'm not talking about the reimbursement situation.
well, what I'm getting at is if everything stays the same, there's no guarantee that our reimbursement is going to match your cost. There's no guarantee.
Correct.
So that, whatever it is. And I think that's, you know, once again, you're bringing up the issue.
I've moved on to trying to work out a proposal for the future trash collection.
Right.
If you decide to go with that and stop the reimbursement system. I've moved on to that. That's what I'm talking about now.
No, I get it, but what I'm getting at too is, and I've had this discussion with the manager, I'm not sure it's even worth us getting into that process unless the numbers are significant because of the issues you already raised. It might even, in my mind, it might be cleaner just to reimburse you based on the number that equates to our cost. And if you want to pick it up 4 times a week, that's on you. as opposed to us trying to, we're not going to be able to satisfy every condominium association with their needs, and we can't add a cost to the taxpayers to pick up more frequently to a contract. So that's where I'm going with it. We'll look at it, though. You understand my logic, though, in terms of?
Yes, I understand your logic. There were some considerations that I wanted to introduce that are probably premature.
Okay.
That's probably why you're
But
not
let's stay
understanding what
in
I'm
the
trying to say.
conversation, because as simple as it seems, it is a complicated matter.
Oh, it's not, it's not simple.
Yes.
It's not simple at all.
Mrs. Malone, I have a couple questions. I just want to let you know, too, we take it very seriously. I, too, had a meeting last Monday with Mr. Stinson. We went over a lot of details and possibilities. I think moving forward, like the mayor has stated, that we're going to take everything into account, but we obviously cannot reimburse for more than any single-family dwelling's getting. Moving forward, Mr. Stinson did say to me that, you know, there were a couple options. We discussed them, all viable options, and I'm sure moving forward, everything you need to say, and we'll have other meetings. But I do have a couple questions for you on the record here. You stated that, in your opinion, your accountant said you were being reimbursed fully in the past. Was that for your full cost?
I know from personal experience from reviewing the records of both condo associations, in the past, we submitted our trash bills and we were fully reimbursed. We never hit the upper limit. And I don't know how far away we were from the upper limit.
And that was for multiple pickups in the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
It was for 2 pickups a week in the summer.
Okay. And do you know through your records how far back that has gone for the entire history that you've been dealing with the private collector?
My recollection is that it only changed in the last few years.
Okay.
But I wasn't necessarily paying close attention all that time.
Okay.
I know when I first got involved with the associations, everything was hunky-dory. And there was never an issue about the reimbursement. We submitted the bills, we got fully reimbursed.
Right.
In my mind, that was able to happen because picking up one dumpster is a whole lot cheaper than going to
Sure.
20 individual homes.
Well, and obviously, we also don't want, we have some condominiums with 100 units, and obviously, we don't want 100 trash cans out there also.
Right.
But again, Mr. Stinson had said to me that they're definitely looking into what was done in the past, but moving forward, obviously, with the condominium associations, we can only do what's fair for everybody, which is one
Correct.
pickup. Everything above and beyond the contract we voted on today, whether it be the condominiums moving forward on their own and having additional pickups through a private collection or through the ACUA.
Okay, but you didn't vote on this proposal today.
No, not, right. The one we discussed, yes. So, but again, my question was, as far as you know, you were fully reimbursed for everything in at least the past few years?
Not in the past few years. The past few years is when we did not get fully reimbursed, which started raising questions in people's minds. Why did we never hit the trash limit before, and now there's a problem and we're not getting fully reimbursed, which is what caused us to look at the math, which revealed some problems with the math.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion.
Past few years.
This time, seeing no business before council, are there any council comments?
I do have a couple of things. I just want to mention that the Green Team is sponsoring and organizing a beach plum planting on April 16th. I believe that's at 10 a.m., and we're meeting at 12th Street South. If anybody wants to come plant some beach plum plants in the dunes, that's April 16th. That's also posted on the Green Team Facebook page. The tree giveaway, John, can you give us some of the details and dates and times with the tree
Yes.
seedling giveaway?
The New Jersey Tree Recovery Campaign is giving the Green Team and Public Works 300 seedlings, as they've done in the past. We'll be giving them out April 9th in front of the Public Works Department from 10 to 12. And it's one per resident. and I'm not sure what kind of trees they are yet. I will find out on Friday.
What time Saturday morning is that?
10 a.m. to noon in the front of the Public Works Department.
And if we don't give away 300 seedlings on Saturday, we're going to try to figure something out so that we can give the rest away on Sunday.
Yes.
Okay. And a few months back, council approved an application for the Green Team to apply to Sustainable Jersey for a $2,000 grant. We received that grant. I heard it was a very difficult grant to get because so many municipalities applied for it. And actually, Jim Martella told me that. And the way we wrote the grant was to do a community outreach education program on our new contract with ACUA, so it just worked out perfectly. So we're going to launch a little campaign, and we're going to use those funds to do that, to educate people on our new trash cans and on our new recycle cans. So I just want to let everyone know, I think we'll get the check sometime next week. Would you let me know when that gets deposited into the fund? Okay, thank you.
Congratulations to the Green Team for the
Thank
the
you.
grant.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, could we have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Once again, I want to thank everyone who participated in tonight's meeting by coming in. And for those of you